Good morning, crafty friends. It is November 20th, and I know I haven't been online in a couple days, but it's been for a good cause because I want to talk about COPPA and the new YouTube changes that might or might not affect the craft community. So, COPPA, the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, is just that. The FTC did an audit on YouTube basically and found them in uh, basically they were serving up ads to children whom they deem 13 and under. That's illegal. And so they got this big, huge fine, and YouTube's solution to that is to pass it on to the content creators to make an informed decision about their channel and to whether or not they are a child content channel or not. So, with that said, like Craft Purge said, this is not something we have to jump all up in arms about. We don't have to get freaked out or scared. But I do think there are some things that I want to share with you guys that I learned in the different genres that will help us in our delivery of our videos to ensure that the craft community is safe. So, the biggest topic I want to talk about is YouTube being a babysitter, okay? We might all be guilty, we might not be guilty. I am not guilty in ever using YouTube as a babysitter just because when my child was small, YouTube wasn't a thing. I mean, we were watching Barney and Blue's Clues on TV, so I personally never used YouTube as a babysitter. Parents these days, unfortunately, do. You know, you're giving your kid your device. They're 2 years old. They can maneuver YouTube better than most adults. And the internet, period, better than most adults. And that's just a fact of life. While I do think that all of this is a result of parents not being as vigilant as they claim, I think that, there's nothing we can do to stop it at this point. I mean, this is the federal government. Just like in my profession, in the medical field, we have HIPAA. And everybody knows what HIPAA is about. Well, when it first came around in 2004, it was horrible. People freaked out. And let me tell you, at one time, I gave a patient the brand new HIPAA, hot off the presses. It was 7 pages long back then. 7 pages long, gave it to this gentleman to fill out and complete. And he threw his clipboard and his pen at me and told me he was too old to do stuff like that. So, just like with HIPAA, it is going to make some people angry. It is going to ruffle some shirt tails. But I think that it is going to affect the large monetized channels more so than it will those of us here in the craft community who are not monetized, and we don't rely on YouTube as our sole source of income. What I learned on these other channels, which were kind of like product review channels for craft kits or collectible channels or Lego channels, while those channels are directed for adults or they're family friendly, those topics in the generalization of this YouTube rule, those are now considered child directed or child appealing. So what's going to happen is we're going to see a decline in channels such as that, because even if this guy over here is reviewing this new addition to his collection, which is a 50-year-old action figure, G.I. Joe, while that is more so an adult collectible at this point, a child might see that video and be like, oh, G.I. Joe, I'm going to click on it. And so he would then be in violation if he's marked that video as not child content related. He would be in violation of that. So in the crafting community, I think we need to be vigilant about what products we use, what products we talk about, and just be aware of our YouTube surroundings and what's going on around us. If you look at your analytics And I highly recommend everybody do this every now and then, but you need to do it on a laptop or a PC because you can see more than on there than you can on the mobile version of the YouTube Studio. So our demographic in the craft community will pretty much be the same. Middle-aged females in the US, we're gonna say. Or that's my demographic. So while we know, I know, you know, that our channel is not child directed, I think it would be a good idea for everybody just to go ahead and go in and change your settings, change all of your previous videos to not child content, and then when you upload every video in the future, it's automatically marked for that. If you in the future do a child content related video, then you could mark that and be in compliance. Here's the thing. If we're talking about the little bitty things that are outlined and the little bitty things that they can pick out, then I'm concerned about Disney, number one. If you have Disney in your name, or if you're using Disney images, or if you're a coloring channel and you're using a Disney coloring book and you're using Crayola markers to color in that coloring book, technically, by the new algorithm and the new system that they will be using to vet our videos, they could potentially tag you and say that your video is child content related. And I don't want anybody to get that ill-fated email from YouTube, and I don't want anybody to be fined. They're talking about a $42,000 fine. I just want everybody to keep the small little details in the back of your brain. So if in your video setup you have Disney princesses and you take your thumbnail, just be mindful that a child could construe that or be attracted to that and click on your video. Also, in our community, we have kids in our videos. So does that mean by these rules that we're a kids channel just because we have kids in our own kids in our videos? Like, I highly, highly, highly recommend watching a few different genres that are speaking on COPPA, just so that it can give you a different perspective, and just so we can all be educated on the matter as a whole and how it will affect YouTube as a whole. Because the last thing I want to hear is of one of our friends here in the community getting their channel taken down just because Disney is in their name, or just because they did a swap with somebody that was Frozen themed and that was their, in their title, so that video got flagged. Like, we just need to be mindful of how we present things, how we use products. And it's kind of like the whole Auntie Allie thing, remember? This was before I joined and actually started ordering from Auntie Allie, but there was a time when YouTube did not want you mentioning Auntie Allie's site. And so that's where Auntie Allie came from. And I think pretty much all of us use that now. And I haven't seen any enforcement on videos that are using that name. So, YouTube is changing every day. When I first started YouTube a couple years ago, I was monetized. And it was a struggling channel. Like, I didn't have a great camera. I wasn't doing much of nothing. And the beauty community is not a community you want to jump into anyway, because they're mean, nasty, hateful people over there. But I made 6 cents the first year I was on YouTube. A whopping 6 cents. So I don't think that it's going to affect my channel personally, because I don't use child products. But LollyPalooza, who is a very large crafty channel, she did mention, and she made a good point. She talked about the Disney thing and how she's concerned about an entire Disney series that she did would need to be removed or moved to a child channel, which I think she did do. But she also mentioned, and I lost my train of thought with that. She also mentioned something else. and I can't remember now. And it was a really good point. I hate that. But I do highly recommend going over to her channel and looking at it. She gives a lot of information. She has a link to the petition that you can sign. There is another gentleman here who is Jay Law, and he goes into great detail about COPPA and what it's about. And, you know, we just need to be mindful of what's going on. Whether we think it's going to affect us or not, whether it does or not, I'm not sure. But it never hurts to just be aware of your surroundings in YouTube and be aware of everything that's going on. And just be mindful of everything around us. So while we have a lot of channels that we watch that are not crafting related, I watch a lot of channels who just talk about how to make your YouTube better and how to improve this and that. And they're two of them in particular, they're brothers, D. Nimmin and Nick Nimmin. I watch them as good measure, period, just because I like learning about YouTube. But they are able to give a broader perspective on the whole COPPA thing because they cover all genres in improving YouTube. You know, the gamers, man, they are going to suffer. It's the channels that are big, huge, and rely more so on the income from YouTube that are really going to get hit hard. And I've also seen in my research, a lot of channels have already said they're leaving the platform. A lot of people saying they're going to go to another platform. Well, that's fine. Do what you want. But the FTC rules everything. So just because YouTube is first, it's because they're the biggest. It's because we were the wildest. Yeah, they got YouTube first. But everybody else, TikTok and all that stuff, they're going to come for them soon. So don't abandon YouTube. I mean, I think that for channels that rely solely on this, it's going to suck. But for those of us in the craft community, I don't think it's going to affect us as much. I just think we all need to be super aware, like I said, and just be mindful. Maybe, I don't want to find out the hard way that somebody using a Mickey Mouse image in their project has been dinged. You know what I mean? So maybe don't put that in your title, or don't use that as a tag. Like, don't draw attention to yourself is the way I want to, you know, just put it out there. Don't draw attention to yourself. So the gray areas of this COPPA thing is so confusing and so vague. Even the YouTube video itself, I mean, we could be using a colored pencil. Technically, the way this is drawn out, we could be using a colored pencil to color a stamped image. And because we have that video titled Coloring with My Prismacolors, yada yada yada, a kid could see that, and the algorithm is automatically going to deem that as child related. Like, we don't even have a say so, even though we know that we're an adult. Our 560 something viewers are adults, so we know that. But the system, the AI of YouTube, is not necessarily going to know that. So we're stuck in the middle of this gray area where our content could be either or. You know, it's a fluctuating a wave. So again, just educate yourselves. Take the time out. If you see COPPA come across your homepage, look at it. You know, it is good information just to know. I mean, we are content creators. This is either a hobby or a job. So with that, you just need to be trained and educated and make sure you're giving out the best content possible, which I don't think is an issue in the crafty community because we are a plethora of information. But according to this COPPA, we could be a plethora of information for kids and adults. So take the time, go ahead and set your channel. If you don't know how to do it, please feel free to reach out to me and I will walk you through it. You do need to have a PC or a laptop though. So if you don't have that, go to your local library where internet is free and we can work through it. I'm here to help anybody that needs any help. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I will say it took me about 2 hours to go through all of my previous videos. You can select all and do 50 at a time, but it takes some time to do that. So if you have more than, I think I have 250 videos on my channel, I just selected all, marked them as not child content, and went about my day. And that took about 2 hours. So I do encourage you guys to do that. If you're even further worried about it, make sure you change your channel settings to allow only subscribers who are 18 and up if you're super worried. Children can bypass that though, like I said. So with that said, I hope that this video was informational at the very least. There are tons of resources out there, and again, I highly encourage you guys just to look at other genres and check out what they're saying, because you never know what they say and how it might relate to you and your channel and the way you run your channel. So with that said, you guys, I will see you in the next video. Much love.